now. And
Okay.
so
Fine.
thank you.
Okay, this will be recorded. Oh, which reminds me, we didn't say our blessing. Wow, you say our recording. I remember I say our blessing. Okay, thank you. That just reminded me. Baruch, Atah, Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech, Ha'olam, Asher, Bachar,
Bahar,
Banu, Mikol,
Kol,
Ha'amim,
Amim,
V'nasan,
Benasa,
Lanu,
Lanu,
Es,
As,
Taraso, Baruch,
Baruch,
Atah,
Ata,
Adonai,
Adonai,
Nosein,
Say,
Nasai,
HaTorah,
HaTorah,
Shema,
Ah,
Israel,
Israel,
Adonai,
Adonai,
Eloheinu,
Eloheinu,
Adonai,
I,
Echad. All
Echad.
right, so I'm going to go backwards for the benefit of the recording. So we did start a little before, but for this semester we should record this. So I just am going to briefly review what we just spent a while discussing, which is there are several biblical prohibitions in connection to Passover, all of which are extremely significant, with have an extremely hefty punitive price tag if you violate them. There's a tremendous prohibition against eating chametz. Chametz translates in English to leaven. Leaven means anything which has a rising agent in it. And we said that would mean bread, that would mean cake, that would mean cookies, that would mean crackers, that would mean cereal. That would also mean various alcohols, vodka, perfumes. And that could mean many other items that have and you don't even realize. Could be in almost anything, especially nowadays with equipment and various medicines and cleansers and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of food items can all have something from chametz, something which had flour, water, mixture that was allowed to sit, something that had a yeast agent in it, or anything else that would cause this rising. So a lot of things. You're not allowed to eat them for the duration of Passover. You're not allowed to own them for the duration of Passover. You're not allowed to see them for the duration of Passover. So that means before Passover, you have to clean your homes. You have to go through your cabinets. And anything that could be chametz, that could have this leavening in it, you shouldn't own, you shouldn't use, and you shouldn't even see. So if you have a cabinet full of food that is potentially chametz, close the cabinet, put a piece of tape over it, and don't open it for the duration of the holiday. If you have items in your freezer, put it all on one shelf, cover the shelf with paper so you don't even see it. If you have items in your fridge, put it all on one shelf, cover the shelf with paper, then and don't even see it. You're not supposed to see it. You're not supposed to use it. You're not supposed to eat it. You're not supposed to benefit from it, and you're not supposed to own it. Well, what do you do about this issue of owning it when you can't drink all that vodka in your cabinet? You can't eat all that cake in your cabinets. I mean, you could, but you get really fat. So what should you do? So what the rabbis said to do is they created a bill of sale that rabbis sell it to very kind non-Jews that buy this enormous amount of property. And then right after the holiday of Passover is over, they sell it back to the Jews. To participate in such a bill of sale, I said, do not do it with your local, kind, wonderful, non-Jewish friend or neighbor, because it's a very complicated legal document. It's a true legal document. It is a true valid sale, and it's very complicated. So do it with a rabbi. It's very simple. I said, just text or WhatsApp me your name, your husband's name, every place you could potentially have chametz, your home, if you have a second home, a vacation home, if you have items, you have cake, you have candies, you have cookies at work, if you keep food in your car, describe everything, text it or WhatsApp it to me. My husband will sell it for you right before the holiday of Passover, and it'll be bought back right after the holiday of Passover. Very simple, and that saves you from a tremendous biblical prohibition of owning the chametz, the leavening. If you have it in your home, as I said, you don't want to see it. So put it in cabinets and lock the cabinets, put a piece of tape over the cabinets, put a rope over the cabinets, put one of those children's locks over the cabinets, don't open them up. Your medicine cabinets are full of chametz. Your pantries are full of chametz, your fridge, your freezer, all these things are full of chametz. You want to clean your house, you don't happen to have, cookie crumbs under the sofa or, things like that, spilled flour, sugar combinations, wherever. You want to clean your whole homes to make sure there's nothing in any of the corners or crevices. This is a very huge, huge commandment, which is very labor intensive. And you have to stop using it from 10:23 Saturday morning. So we're not talking about this Sabbath, we're talking about next week. So next Sabbath, sorry, I don't have the English date in front of me. Somebody can provide it if it's not clear. Next week, not this Sabbath, not in, 5 days, in a week from this Sabbath. Saturday night is the holiday. From 10:23 in the morning, you cannot have any more items that are chametz. So we've got a little problem here because you're supposed to eat a meal Sabbath by night and by day, but you can't eat anything that's leavened, but you have to have challah. Obviously on Passover, we have matzah, but you're not allowed to eat matzah Erev Passover. So Sabbath by day, you're not allowed to eat matzah. So what do you do? Well, there's lots of different things that people suggest. The simplest thing, now again, at this point, not this Saturday, next Saturday, your whole home should be kosher for Passover. Anything you own that's not kosher for Passover should be put away, locked, put a piece of tape over it, put rope on it. You should not open up those cabinets. So your normal pots should be locked up. All your normal baking and cooking items should be locked up. They shouldn't be accessible. The only thing you should have out is Passover items, Passover pots, Passover pans, Passover ingredients. So what are you eating that Sabbath? Now you can't eat matzah. You're not allowed to eat matzah right before Passover. You're also not allowed to eat any of the signs of the Seder by day, which means you don't have apples, you don't have nuts. You wouldn't have broiled meat. I'm trying to think what else it would affect. Probably other things as well. You wouldn't have the lettuce of the charoises, of the chazeres. Eggs we are allowed to eat. That's an interesting question. For some reason, we are allowed to eat eggs. Even though it wouldn't make sense, Vega, that we don't, but eggs you can eat. But anything besides eggs or potatoes, also potatoes people use and onions people use, right, for the Seder. So onions, potatoes, and eggs we are allowed to eat. But anything else that we call the signs of the Seder, matzah, the maror, the bitter herbs, the lettuce, and the apples, and the nuts, and I can't think of anything else right now, the shank bone, all that, the broiled meat, we do not eat by that day of Saturday. But we do have to have something to make our Suda on. So there's lots of different solutions. The simplest one is to have a very small amount of challah. Now also Friday night, you have the same situation. Your whole house is gonna be kosher for Passover. Your chametz pots were put away. Your chametz food is put away. It's all put away. So what are you gonna eat? You're gonna cook with your Passover pots, using your Passover ingredients, and make a Passover Shabbos. It's not Passover yet. Why am I eating Passover food an extra day? Because you have no choice. Because you can't eat chametz food because you can't have any of it around. So you're gonna make a Passover Friday night meal. You're gonna make a Passover Shabbos day meal. But at both meals, even though everything is Passover, you're gonna need bread because you need to have challah. So you're gonna be very, very careful. If you usually buy like 2 big loaves, you're not going to buy 2 big loaves. You're going to just buy a small amount that everyone gets enough and it all is gone. No leftovers. You're going to eat very carefully that there's not one crumb. You're going to eat over a napkin and flush that napkin afterwards down the toilet. So there's no crumbs because any crumb is pure chametz. This is bread. This is as big a chametz as you can get. And you're completely kosher for Passover house, you're having bread. So you want to be extremely careful. Some people eat outside and they rely that the wind is going to brush away the crumbs. And some people eat in their homes like we would over napkins, and we'll eat very carefully to make sure there's no crumbs, and then we'll still flush the napkins down the toilet just to make sure we did not have any crumbs in our house, because this is bread. This is the enemy. You're going to do that Friday night because your whole house is Passover, but you have bread. And you can do that Saturday morning because, again, you need challah. It's a Suda Shabbos. It's a Shabbos meal, but you can't have it. Now, Saturday morning, it gets trickier. What gets trickier? What gets trickier is you have to finish eating anything leavened by 10:23 in the morning. So therefore, your Saturday day lunch Shabbos meal is going to start very early, because you want to either finish the meal by 10:23 or at least make sure there's not one crumb of challah left by 10:23. So you're going to have completely finish your challah. And then again, if you're outside, assuming the wind got the crumbs, or if you're in your home, making sure there's no crumbs on that napkin and then flushing it down the toilet just to be safe, because you cannot own any leaven. You cannot see any leaven. You can definitely not be eating any leaven after 10:23 in the morning. Now you can say, wait a minute, Passover doesn't come till Saturday night. Why can't I eat a sandwich 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Because there's a biblical prohibition already on the eve of the holiday from owning, seeing, or benefiting from any leavened product. So therefore, from 10:23 in the morning, you cannot eat that challah anymore. So you're going to have a very early Sabbath lunch. For sure, for all the challah to be done completely by 10:23 in the morning. Now, again, you might choose afterwards to eat other products and then finish your meal, or you might finish your whole meal then. That's fine either way. But you can't have any breadcrumbs from 10:23. So that's very important. Now, so this makes this Sabbath coming out, the Passover coming out this way, a little complicated. I said I happen to like it. The reason why I like it is because, okay, your meal ended really early. Maybe it ended by 11 if you continued eating after you finish your challah way before 10:23, because you don't want to have any pressure to finish it. You don't want any pressure. Don't wash for bread at 10:15. Start way earlier, so you finish your challah, you cleaned your mouth, you made sure there's no crumbs on your fingers, no crumbs on your mouth, no crumbs on the table, nothing, and whatever pretend mystical crumbs there are gets flushed down the toilet. So you want plenty of time to do it right. And then you finish your meal. I mean, what are you eating already? Your Passover foods. What are you eating? It's 11 o'clock, let's say. You're done. You've got after 7 when you can start, almost 8 when you're starting your Seder. You've got like over 8 hours. What can you do now? Can you prepare for the Seder? No, you're not allowed to prepare on Sabbath for after Sabbath. What can you do? You can relax. You can take a nice long nap, a relaxing walk. You can read some beautiful items of inspiration about Passover. You can just recharge physically and spiritually. So when you come to your Seder and eat your matzah, you are so rejuvenated. That's why I like this. Otherwise, you say you can spend a whole Shabbos afternoon being hungry, because what are you supposed to eat? But hopefully that's not a problem. Hopefully you'll have bananas or oranges, no apples. Can't eat any apples then, but you can eat bananas and oranges, no nuts. And you know, whatever leftover food from your meal. And I happen to think it's a nice way it falls out. Now, when can you start your Seder? You can start your Seder. This is Chicago time, not Florida times. I don't know Florida times. I can look it up if you need me, Hava. But you can start your Seder 7:45. If you're only eating matzah, you can eat your matzah at 7:45. If you're having an entire Seder, you can have your Seder at 7:45. Do not eat the matzah or start a Seder before. It doesn't count. There's no point in doing it. It's not giving God anything. It's not giving you anything. If you want to do what God wants, you cannot start it before 7:45. We have 2 Seders. We're blessed. We get to do it twice. The second Seder is Sunday night. You cannot start your Seder Sunday night before 7:47. Again, don't eat the matzah or start the Seder before 7:47. It's not what God wants. It's not giving God anything. It's not giving you anything. If you're doing it for God, for you, for your soul, 7:47 Sunday night, 7:45 Saturday night. Chava. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. On the first day of Pesach, we're not allowed to eat matzah during the day?
You are allowed to eat matzah during the day.
Okay.
But what you're not allowed to eat, though, thank you for raising that point, is the same things, not matzah, because matzah, once you had it that first night, it's okay. But the apples, the nuts, the lettuce, the grain, the grated horseradish, all of those items that you couldn't eat on Shabbos before Passover, you cannot have the entire Saturday night besides at the Seder, and Sunday until after the Seder, which means practically speaking, don't have it till Monday because you're not supposed to eat after the Seder anyway. So again, you are allowed to have wine. Once Passover came in, you are allowed to have matzah. But at your meal by the Seder Saturday night, do not cook foods with apples. Do not cook foods with nuts. Do not serve lettuce like the murr lettuce. Do not use a horseradish. None of those items. And the same thing the entire day Sunday. Don't cook anything with apples, with nuts. Don't use the lettuce for a salad. Don't use the horseradish. But Monday, again, that's after the second Seder is over, because the second Seder is Sunday night. Monday you can. So if you have all these delicious apple dishes or nut dishes, there's a lot of things we use with apples and nuts because there's very few ingredients we have on Passover. So whatever we have, we use a lot. So anything with apples or nuts, make them for Monday. Any other questions? If you have, for example, I know my children, they always enjoy eating whatever little meat is left on the zroa, the shank bone, the neck. But they can't eat it after the first Seder. They can only eat it the next morning, Monday morning, because they're not allowed to eat it during the first Seder. They're not allowed to eat it during the second Seder. After the second Seder, you're not allowed to eat after a Seder. So Monday morning, they eat this cold zroa, roasted burnt meat, and they enjoy it very much, whatever they can nibble off the bones. So you can't have that until Monday morning, not the apple, not the nuts, not the lettuce, not the grain, the horseradish, and not the meat from your roasted shank bones or neck bones. Chava.
Okay, so question about cooking. So everything for Pesach should be cooked before Shabbat, right?
Or you can cook it Saturday night if you leave a flame. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. That's not a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically.
It's your choice. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I hate cooking on Yom Tov. I always cook everything before. But there are plenty of people that cook on Yom Tov.
Okay,
It's a
so
style.
I mean, right, if people want to have Seder as soon as possible, like
Then you cook everything
7:45,
before. Yeah.
you
You cook
listen
everything
before.
before. Because you
So-
cannot prepare before 7:45. So you wouldn't be able to start preparing.
Right.
Which means
So that-
even like making the salt water. I mean, what's the problem mixing water with salt? No, it's preparing for the Seder. You cannot start preparing until 7:45. Setting the table. No. You cannot. I know you want to have the table set, eat somewhere else for your Friday night and Saturday meals. Then you could set it on Friday. You're not allowed to set that table on Saturday. You're not allowed to prepare on Saturday for after Saturday. So the Seder is after Saturday. It's Saturday night, Shabbos night, after Shabbos. So you cannot prepare at all. So yes, it's wise to cook before and then leave a small flame on because you can't turn on the flame Saturday night. So you leave a small flame on to be able to warm things up on.
Okay, so it's kind of the same. So what about Havdalah?
So the Havdalah is made in Kiddush. When the man makes Kiddush by the Seder, the first thing we do is Kaddish. That's the first thing we do in the Seder is the man makes Kiddush and everyone drinks a cup of wine, right? It's versus like on a regular, it's versus on a regular Shabbos where everybody sips wine. Here, everyone drinks a cup of wine. But before that, the man makes Kiddush. So it's very important to look to have good instructions in Russian or in English, because it's very complicated, because there are special passages you say when you're doing this Saturday night, so your Kiddush is also Havdalah. So you don't have a candle, you don't have spices. We don't use spices the whole Passover for Havdalah. But you don't have a candle, but there are special passages you say which are Havdalah, and they are part of the Kiddush. So therefore, whoever is making that Kiddush, you or your husband, has to read very carefully to read the right passages. Meaning it's everything you would say every year, plus there's inserts for Havdalah. It's not simple. You have to very carefully look at the English or Russian translation to make sure you're doing it properly.
Okay, so if we didn't make Havdalah yet, but we still can start cooking after
Yeah, as soon
Shabbat.
as it's 7:45, you can prepare everything. You can't eat anything, but the first thing you're going to eat is going to be that wine, and you're going to make Havdalah as part of the Kaddish. So that's when you made your Havdalah, so that's fine.
Okay.
But what you do in terms of keeping the food is just like however you keep your food hot on the Sabbath, it's easier on the holiday, because on the Sabbath, if you have a flame on your range, you need to keep like a metal plate over it, something to cover the fire and cover the knobs. On a holiday, you don't. You could cook directly on the fire, but you cannot start a fire on the holiday. You cannot lower a fire on the holiday. If need be, you could raise it, but you have to raise it very carefully, because you could raise it, but you can't lower it. So if you, made it too high, you're stuck till the end of the holiday, which is 2 days. So therefore, it's wise not to fool around with it. Set it to your perfect desired temperature before Shabbos begins, and don't touch it. But Saturday night at 7:45, if you have a blech, if you have a metal plate over your flames, you can take off the metal plate and just put whatever you want to warm up directly on the fire. But don't lower the fire, that's forbidden. And it's better not to raise it, because it's very hard to raise it properly, and you end up raising it too high and you're stuck. Speaking from experience, I haven't done it in like 30 years because I know it's not worth it. I'm very careful. I set it before the Sabbath, exactly where I want it, and I'm done. Again, also on the holiday, it's easier because on the Sabbath, you can't really put things on and off. But on the holiday, you can. You can't really juggle the positions of things, but on the holiday, you can. So it's easier on the holiday than on Sabbath in terms of warming things up, but you're still not allowed to start a fire, and you're not allowed to lower a fire. So
Why are you not allowed to start the fire from pre-existing fire?
Because even though there is that, you're saying there is that little starter flame, it's still considered like starting a fire. It's still, our sages still view it as starting a fire, and therefore it's forbidden. You can't strike a match and start a fire, right? You're not allowed to do that.
Not match, but if you have pre-existing, like I have a candle burning, why can't I use candle? Let's say I have a stove that doesn't have that electrical element. I use fire from the candle to use a gas burner.
You would be allowed to probably, but the point is you wouldn't be allowed to regulate it. So it's very hard to get it exactly right. Meaning you could, if you had a candle, very simple. How do you light Shabbos? How do you light the candles for the holiday? You take a pre-existing flame and you put it to your candle. You don't want to do that. So you could take that same pre-existing flame, you're saying, and put it to something else. But the problem is, if it's Saturday night, it's very hard to get the temperature exactly right. It's going to be too low or too high. So it's much simpler before the holiday to get it exactly at the temperature you want, because you cannot lower it. That's absolutely forbidden. You're allowed to raise it, but it's very hard to raise it precisely. So no, you can't tell. So that's why it's not really something done. But if you wanted to know, if for some reason for you, it's much simpler to have gas running and take your candle and put it there, I will ask if you're allowed to do that. I don't know if you're allowed to or not, but in general, I wouldn't advise it, because I think the heat of the flame, you won't be able to regulate. So it'll be hard, but it's easier for you, I'll ask.
Okay,
That's what Sheva.
thank you.
Because you're saying there's nothing electric in your range. Okay. Any other questions?
How about fish? Is it considered
You can
Like
eat
you
fish
do.
on Sabbath. You can eat fish on Sabbath. That's not a problem at all. Fish is not one of the signs of the Seder. You got no problems with fish.
Okay.
Yeah, fish is no problem at all. Yeah, I'm just thinking it's just like apples, nuts. Salad always seems a problem, but it's basically apples and nuts and the lettuce and the roasted meat. We don't eat roasted meat. So you wouldn't make roasted meat for like the Seder or for the meal on Friday, on Shabbos and Saturday, or for the meal on Sunday. If you're gonna have roasted meat, the first time you would serve it would be Monday. Because roasted meat is something that connects to the Korban Pesach.
Oh, so I didn't know that we cannot eat meat.
I didn't say
Any
you can't eat
meat?
meat. You can't eat roasted meat.
So I can cook meat in a different way,
If you were cooking in a different way, it's not a problem. Roasted is a problem.
roasted.
Right, because roasted is how they made the Paschal offering, was they roasted it.
Okay, so I
In
can
other words,
bake
if
it.
you had meat that you were boiling, it's not a problem. Boiled
Yeah.
meat's not a problem. If you had meat that you were deep frying, it's not a problem. But if you're roasting it, which means over a dry heat, it's a problem. So if you were going to put it in the oven with the heat on, that would be considered a form of roasting. So that would be a problem.
So baking is a roasting.
Baking is a type of roasting, right? Because
So-
it's dry heat.
But what if there is water in it? If it's like I
If
put
it's at
meat in,
least halfway water, then it's not a problem. If it's
Okay.
just a tiny drop, it would be a problem. But if it's at least halfway water, then it's not a problem.
okay.
And Passover ends, for people thinking really ahead, Sunday night, April 4th in Chicago at 8:03. So Sunday night, April 4th at 8:03, you can use all of your chametz. You can take away that tape, take away those locks, take away those ropes. You're relying that the rabbi right away bought everything back, and you're feel free to use it all. No. No. Any other questions? Now, if you are not planning on having a Seder, or if you are planning on having a Seder, the most important part of the Seder is eating the matzah. Eating the matzah is very, very, very important. It's a huge spiritual issue. We say when we're eating the matzah, it's like eating godliness. It's eating the food of the angels. It might not taste that way, but it's a spiritual energy. And the most spiritual holy matzah is the matzah of the Seder. So really the whole week it's good to eat matzah. And me, who like never eats bread from Shabbos to Shabbos, but I make a point every single day of Passover to eat matzah. Even though I have a psychological resistance, but I still do it because I know how spiritually important it is. It says when you eat matzah, you are eating faith in God. You are eating belief in God. You are literally physically taking in belief in God. Now, when we're talking about matzah, the best matzah to get is the handmade shmura matzah. That is what you want to buy. And nowadays, things have so progressed that you can get it in Jewel, and you could probably get it in Mariano's. You could definitely get it in Hungarian. Used to be, when I first came to Chicago some 30 years ago, you ordered it from New York. There was no such thing as going to a grocery store anywhere in Chicago and getting handmade shmura matzah. Now it's a no big deal. No big deal. No reason not to. Every single one of you should have handmade shmura matzah. Very, very important. I'm sure if you don't live near a grocery store, you could order it on Amazon. Not a big deal. Handmade shmura matzah. And for sure, especially the 2 nights of the Seder, Saturday night and Sunday night, to make sure to have handmade shmura matzah. Very, 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 very important. That's probably the most important thing you can do. Obviously, there's all the negatives. Don't eat the chametz. Don't own it. Don't see it. You got to clean your house, make sure you don't see it. You got to sell it to make sure you don't own it, and don't eat it. But in terms of actually what you can do, it's eating the matzah every day of Passover, and most especially the 2 seders, how much should you eat? You should eat at least 1 whole matzah per person. So eating matzah doesn't mean you take 1 matzah and split it among 6 people and you all nibble on a little. It means eating at least a whole matzah, if not more. So again, if you're not going to do a seder, or if you are going to do a seder, either way, the most important thing is to have handmade shmura matzah and buy enough that for both seders, every adult, every person, every boy over 13 and girl over 12 has 1 matzah per seder at least. And it's very important. Again, it's eating belief in God. It's eating godliness. It's changing your entire year. It's very, 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 very important. So it shouldn't be something you skimp on. You want to skimp on other things. Don't skimp on that. Very important. If you have friends that maybe aren't as connected to Judaism as you are, they don't know as much, get the matzah, bring it to them before Passover, ask them to please eat it Saturday night and Sunday night after 7:45. 1 matzah per person. They will or they won't, but you should try, because it's an enormous spiritual advantage. Simply by eating the matzah, you are changing your relationship to God. So powerful, changing your relationship to God by eating this matzah. It is really worth, obviously, not only doing it yourself, but thinking of the people you are close to who might or might not be tuned in to the significance of the holiday or the details of the holiday, or they're going to buy a box of Manischewitz, and making sure they have per person 1 matzah for each seder. So if it's a couple, you know, make sure they have 4 matzahs, and each one of them have a whole matzah for 2 sedarim. Saturday night and Sunday night after, and tell them after 7:45, not before, otherwise all the spiritual benefits aren't happening. After 7:45 Saturday night, after 7:47 Sunday night. Any questions? Okay, so I wanted to speak a bit. We spoke a lot on the legal end. And again, we'll also speak next week. I'll think of the stuff I forgot. I'm sure there's stuff I forgot to tell you. But in terms of our own spiritual service, as we right now are in the throes, it's less than 2 weeks to Passover. So we're cleaning, we're shopping, so looking up recipes, figuring out where we're going to have our meal or who we're inviting, what we're making, you know, one way or another, preparing, lots of shopping of food and equipment, and, you know, so much goes in. As I said, it's the most labor intensive commandment there is. It requires a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of money. It's a very, very big investment to do Passover right. And this all is supposed to be reflecting our inner journey, because we're all supposed to be leaving our own Egypt. Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the Hebrew word for Egypt. And Mitzrayim means, the etymology of it is Meitzarim, which means limitations. So leaving our Egypt really means leaving our own personal limitations. And there's a lot of different limitations, and you could set a goal of anything. You could say, I want to stop being late. I want to stop going to bed late. I want to stop, you know, forgetting where I put my keys. You know, we can have lots of different limitations, and we could set a goal. We could ask God for help, because we always need His help for everything in our life. We could keep focused on our goal and be joyous that we know we'll accomplish the goal. We could journal to self-reflect on the goal, and we'll accomplish it. We'll leave our Egypt. But the real Egypt that we need to leave over Passover is the Egypt of our ego. Because ego is the core evil that we are fighting on Passover. And that's what chametz, what leaven represents. Just as you think very obviously physically, the difference between a piece of bread and a piece of matzah is that the bread rose. There was some leavening agent that caused the mixture to rise. In the Hebrew word, chametz and matzah, the letters are almost the same. 2 out of the 3 letters they share. The difference is the matzah has a hey and the chametz has a ches. And if you think of what they look like differently, basically the ches is a hay that rose up. The ego rising. So ego is really the chametz that we're trying to get rid of. And as we look at it, almost like 95 plus some % of all character flaws at their roots, there's ego. So if you get angry, it's rooted in ego. And if you are boastful, it's rooted in ego. And if you get nervous, it's rooted in ego. And if you're manipulative, it's rooted in ego. And if you're impatient, it's rooted in ego. Almost everywhere we turn, we're tripping on our egos. And that's really what we're trying to get rid of. So as we're doing that physical cleansing and trying to find in every nook and cranny of our house if there's any like pretzel crumbs, we're really trying to find inside ourselves the chametz, the leaven in ourselves, the ego that rose up and so much affects us and so much impacts all of our interpersonal relationships and very often our relationship with God as well. And that's really, 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 really what we're doing. It's very interesting because the first temple was destroyed because of idolatry, adultery, and murder. The big 3, idolatry, adultery, and murder. And the Jews were in exile for 70 years and then they went back, which means after 70 years, they refined that evil. The second temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. Baseless hatred means I hate you, then I figure out why. Baseless hatred is an incredible expression of ego. Why do I hate you? Honestly, because you take up space. And you're taking up space minimizes my space. I feel threatened by your existence. What did you do? You didn't do anything. You exist. Your existence already makes me feel mine is being harmed or being threatened. So there's nothing more an obvious expression of ego than baseless hatred. So idolatry, adultery, and murder, the Jews were in exile for 70 years to refine that evil. Baseless hatred, ego, we've been in exile over 1900 years. It's that endemic. It's that deep-rooted. It's that difficult to eradicate.
What considers baseless?
Baseless hatred is defined as you start off hating the person and then afterwards you create a reason why. You don't like someone, you just don't like them, and then you realize why you don't like them. That's called baseless hatred, because you really first didn't like them and then you fabricated a reason why. You fabricated a reason to justify your bad feelings. But the real reason why is because you feel threatened by them. And the reason why you feel threatened by them is because your ego is threatened by them. So they didn't have to do anything to you. You're threatened because of your own ego issues. That's why it's baseless. It's not because of them, it's because of you.
And what about the
In other
problem
words,
actually?
if someone comes over and punches you in the stomach and you have really bad feelings for them, right or wrong, it's not called baseless hatred. There's a reason for it. They attacked you. But if you see there's a new kid on the block and you don't like her, and then you figure out why you don't like her, that's baseless hatred. She didn't do anything to you. Why don't you like her? I don't know. I just don't like her. So really you don't like her because you think she's prettier than you, or she's talking to your friends and you think they're more interested in her than in you, or she has cooler items than you, so you're not as cool anymore, whatever. That's really why you don't like her. That's all ego. That's all a manifestation of your ego. And that's what's called baseless hatred, because she didn't do anything against you. It's your own ego issues that are making you not like her. Now, obviously, I'm saying that in very simple terms, like for children, but honestly, it exists for adults, no problem. Adults have it plentiful. Just the items are slightly different. You know, the bar is slightly different, but the being intimidated and feeling threatened by other people is very prevalent. You know, you have your guard up. What do they do against you? I don't know. They're trying to get my friends. They're trying to, you know, suck up to my boss. They're trying to, You know, it's you. That's the baselessness of baseless hatred. So it's really, it's really super timely work, because as we're cleaning out the chametz, we really want to clean out the ego. And really the first thing to do is to look at your character flaws and to really look at the roots and see if you identify ego. Meaning you never thought impatience was ego. You thought impatience is because, you know, you're a timely person and a time is a time, and why are people schlepping? Why are people not focused? Why are people not put together? But then if you look at it more closely, you realize, because it's, again, the I that's being threatened, the I that's not being properly listened to, the I that's not properly being honored and respected. Oh, that's ego. If you put all that ego away, all right, so you want it this time and it's not working out, so what? But when it becomes a big deal, there's a lot of ego involved there. So when you're looking at yourself and you're looking at your interactions with people, and you're looking at how you perhaps don't always properly treat other people, if you look at it in its roots, you might find a lot of ego there, a lot of ego. So that's the first step to get out of Egypt, is to really identify the ego in ourselves and identify that in so many of our character traits, we really have a lot of ego. Like, I didn't think I had such a big self-esteem. Some people have a very big self-esteem, very obvious to them, their ego. And some people have a very poor self-esteem, but they still have a lot of ego. The second step is to realize how horrible ego is, to really, really, really reject it, because we could be very comfortable with it. I mean, it's me. I've always had ego. It's part of my existence. I have a healthy, positive, high self-esteem. In other words, a very big inflated ego, and that's me. And I think it's fine. I think it's great. It helps me function well. So you have to really, or fine, so I get mad at people. I blow up, but I get over it. I forgive. I blow up easily and I forgive easily. It's fine. No, it's actually not fine. No, it's not fine. Tremendous manifestation of ego, not fine at all. So to really recognize the ugliness of that trait, because a lot of times self-love covers over these things, so we convince ourselves it's not really that bad. And we really need the honest, brutal look at what's going on to really say, no, it is that bad. It's not nice at all. It's not pretty. It's not cute. It's not acceptable. It's ego. It's ugly. I want to get rid of it. That's really important, second step. And then to start working on it. And the best way to work on ego is to select a person who's very, very challenging for your ego, who really pushes your buttons, who you really don't like, who intimidates you, or who you have negative feelings for, who always you respond to with a lot of aggression, or always seems very aggressive to you. And to specifically choose a person like that in your life and treat them with a lot of self-nullification. Because self-nullification is the antithesis of ego. And if I want to overcome my anger, I want to overcome my ego. And to overcome my ego, I need to operate on a level of abnegation, of nullification. And how do I do that? By picking someone who really pulls out my ego, and specifically with them acting in a way of negation for me, because I want to overcome this. And I would say, because we're 2 weeks away from Passover, this is a great time to work on it, because this is the time when God takes us out of Egypt. So this is really the time when you can get out of your Egypt, where you can get out of your ego. So it's worth the work. It's hard work, because it's been a comfortable part of our existence for 50 plus years. But to really do the work and find that person that really ticks off your ego and understand you're the problem. No, she's the problem. I'm not like this with anyone but her. She's obviously the problem. No, not really. I mean, maybe she has her own problems, but from your end, you're the problem. And to really, really, really act with tremendous nullification of self with this other person to really free yourself of the shackles of ego. And we free ourselves by habituating ourselves to behave in a way of nullification.
Yeah, I have
Yes.
a question.
Mhm.
Is this person has to be Jewish or not?
No, they don't have to be
necessarily?
Jewish. No. No. Good
Thank you.
question.
Mhm.
No, they don't have to be Jewish. Because again, the point is you. You're using that person to help you change and grow. So if your ego was triggered by a Jew or by a non-Jew, again, you're still the problem. Your ego is still the problem. We still want to get rid of it. So whoever's the trigger is just a useful person in your life now to help you overcome this trait. To such a degree are they useful that first I would really like you to journal about this. I think journaling is really, really healthy when you're doing self-work because it really gives you perspective. I would hope everyone would have at least one success a day to journal about and maybe some non-successes to reflect on. Journaling really helps our self-reflection, self-growth. The success doesn't have to be only with this person because, of course, the idea is it's supposed to spread to all areas of our life, not just that one person. He or she is just the one that's your most obvious trigger. But if you're picking your boss, but that day you were about to say something snappy to your husband and you controlled yourself because you said, no, that's ego. I don't need to indulge in that. Not when I'm cleaning up my Passover. I'm not making my house so clean for Passover and then I'm indulging in hummus. Like, that's crazy. So I'm not doing that. That's a success story. Well, it's nothing to do with the work I'm doing with my boss. No, it does, because you're working on your ego with your boss or with your colleague or with your employee. So you're more sensitive to the subject. And that's why you caught yourself before you said that nasty comment to your husband. Because that's also ego. So he's not the focus of your work because he's not your biggest problem in this issue. Or maybe he is. But if he's not, that's not, he's not your target audience. But once you get sensitized, you see it all over. Somebody was cut you off when you were driving and you were like, oh my gosh, they're so rude. And you felt all like offended by their rudeness. And you're like, wait a minute, that's my ego. What do I care? Like, who cares? What am I getting offended and annoyed by this driver? That's me, that's my ego. So I'm rejecting it. So that's a success story. They'll never know it. It doesn't make a difference. It's you and God. It's your success story because you're aware and you're stopping it. So it's good to hopefully have at least one success story a night to journal about and your non-successes as well to really reflect on them. And what I'd like your target to be, because we got like 2 weeks to Passover. So before Passover, I'd like you to gift this person with something significant. It doesn't have to be a physical gift, but a significant gift, because to really feel a gratitude to them that this person really helped you work through your ego. So they were very helpful. They didn't know that was their role. You might not tell them that's the reason for the gift. You probably won't tell them that's the reason for the gift, but you feel gratitude to them. You appreciate because they helped you. Because through working out your relationship with them, it's really helping you in general, working on your ego. So again, you're not focusing on the behavioral manifestation, my impatience, my anger, my overly sensitive nature. You're focusing on the ego. That's the roots of all that. And when you deal at the roots, the manifestations cure themselves. And specifically when you're interacting with this person, as you interact with them and heal in that relationship, it should spread to many others. We'll speak about this a bit more next week because we're definitely over time. But in the interim, if you have any other questions about Passover, feel free to WhatsApp, email, or text me. Whatever way you know. If you don't know my contact information, put it on the group and I can give it to you if you want to ask me something for, just you don't want to post on the group. But please, if you have any questions, because it is a very, as I said, labor intensive time and Jewish law intensive time. Lots and lots and lots of laws regulating so much of how God wants us to celebrate these 8 days of freedom. So we should merit to experience freedom, and we'll discuss this more next week. Thank you so much for joining. And if somebody wants a copy of this recording, just let me know and I will post it. Because we did record this because Chava said there might be someone that wants to hear this again or didn't hear. it.
I definitely want a copy of it.
Okay.
Me
All right.
too.
Fega, you want one
Later.
also?
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. All right.
Cyril, can I ask you a quick question? It's related to Shabbat law. When I light candles, sometimes, like after candle, I pray, I close my eyes and I pray, and I noticed that one of the candle got, lost
Blew
the fire. I don't know how to say that.
It blew out.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing
and
you can do
so-
about it.
Oh, really?
Absolutely nothing you can do about it.
light
No,
it from the
you cannot do anything about it then. Great question. In other words, what Fega's saying is, let's say she lights 2 candles. Let's say she lights 1 for each of her children. She lights 4. She lit the candles. She made the blessing. She's now praying, which is exactly what you're supposed to do then. It's a very, very auspicious time to pray to God. And then when she finishes her prayer, she sees one of the candles blew out. It's Shabbos. There's nothing you can do about it. What you're supposed to do is after Shabbos, light that candle. So Saturday
you.
night when Shabbos is over, light that candle. But on the
Thank you.
Shabbos, nothing you can do about it because it's Shabbos, so you can't light a candle on Shabbos.
Not from the other candles, right? That's
Absolutely not. The truth is, the only thing you could do, I mean, it doesn't come up in my life, so I didn't think about it, but if it, no, don't touch anything. If you lit on time, meaning it's still like 20 minutes, when the time
Mhm.
lighting in Chicago was like 20 minutes before Shabbos, and your husband is home,
Mhm.
you can have him light the candle then, right away.
Gotcha.
But you cannot, because you accepted the Sabbath when you lit the candles.
Thank you. Understood.
Sure. Okay. Be well. Have a wonderful week. And again, if anyone has any questions about Passover, please ask. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of details, and very important to God and very important for your spiritual journey. And lots of success in overcoming our own personal leaven, chametz, ego as well. Be well. Have a
Amen.
great week.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.